You scream, I scream, we all scream for ice cream. But what if the thing in your freezer is not even legally allowed to call itself ice cream anymore? What if the company that made it was convicted of federal crimes? What if the ingredients inside are banned in Europe but perfectly legal in America? And what if the biggest brands in your grocery store have been quietly replacing real cream with corn syrup, pumping in air to fill the container, then charging you more for less? Ice cream used to be one of the simplest foods in the world. Cream, milk, sugar, and maybe some eggs. Your grandmother made it on the back porch. The local dairy sold it by the scoop. It was honest food. But somewhere along the way, the ice cream industry became just another arm of the processed food machine, and the product in your freezer became something your grandmother would not recognize. Today, we are pulling back the lid on 15 ice cream brands you need to think twice about, and some of them are names you have trusted your entire life. We will also share 5 rules to help you spot the real thing and 5 brands that still do it right. This is not about scaring you. This is about making sure the next time you reach into that freezer, you know exactly what you are paying for. Let us begin. Number 15, Great Value Vanilla Ice Cream. Start with what is arguably the most purchased ice cream in America. Walmart's Great Value brand sits in nearly 5,000 stores across the country, and it is priced to move. A 1.5-quart container can cost as little as $3. But let us talk about what is actually inside. The ingredient list on several Great Value flavors reads like a chemistry set. You will find corn syrup, mono and diglycerides, cellulose gum, polysorbate 80, carrageenan, and artificial flavors. These are the hallmarks of a product engineered in a lab to approximate the texture of ice cream while using the cheapest possible ingredients. Carrageenan alone deserves attention. Extracted from red seaweed, it has been used as a standard inflammation-inducing agent in thousands of laboratory experiments since the 1960s. Dr. Joanne Tobacman, Associate Professor of Medicine at the University of Illinois, has published multiple peer-reviewed studies showing that carrageenan predictably causes inflammation. A 2017 study from researchers in Canada and at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health found that consuming carrageenan can lead to ulcers and inflammatory bowel disease in animal models. The European Union has already banned carrageenan from infant formula, yet it remains in most budget ice cream sold in America. For seniors with sensitive digestion or existing inflammatory conditions, this is not a trivial detail. Great Value ice cream is manufactured by contract producers, not by Walmart itself. The company does not disclose which manufacturers produce its frozen desserts, and traceability is nearly impossible. In 2024, Walmart reported revenues exceeding $648 billion. They are not cutting corners because they have to. They are cutting corners because they can. And at that price point, most shoppers never think to flip the container over and read the fine print. Number 14. Kroger brand and Simple Truth ice cream. Kroger is the largest supermarket chain in the United States, and their private label ice cream sits right next to the national brands at a lower price. But Kroger's ice cream story gets more complicated when you look at their premium line. Simple Truth is marketed as the cleaner, healthier alternative. The branding is soft greens and wholesome fonts, but Kroger has already been caught making promises their products could not keep. In 2021, the Ecological Alliance filed a lawsuit alleging that Simple Truth organic whole wheat spaghetti contained 6.77 micrograms of lead per serving, roughly 13 times the California Proposition 65 safety limit. If their organic product line has faced scrutiny over heavy metal contamination in one category, it raises a reasonable question about the rigor of their sourcing standards across the board. Meanwhile, their standard Kroger brand ice cream relies on the same cost-cutting playbook as every other store brand. Ingredients include corn syrup, guar gum, carrageenan, and artificial flavors. The only difference is the label says Kroger instead of Great Value. When it comes to what is actually in the container, they are remarkably similar, because in many cases they come from the same contract manufacturers. Number 13, Turkey Hill ice cream. Turkey Hill has been a familiar name in American freezers since 1931, and it built its reputation in Pennsylvania Dutch country on wholesome dairy farming. But Turkey Hill was acquired by a European dairy company called Lala in 2014, and then things started to change. Turkey Hill became one of the first major brands to shrink their containers below the already shrunken industry standard. In 2023, they quietly reduced their cartons from 48 ounces to 46 ounces, or 1.44 quarts. They did not make an announcement. They did not lower the price. They just made the container a tiny bit smaller and hoped nobody would notice. Some of their flavors are labeled frozen dairy dessert, not ice cream. That means they do not meet the FDA basic 10% milk fat requirement. Their stuffed line uses the frozen dairy dessert designation because it is cheaper to produce. Turkey Hill's parent company admitted as much, telling consumer advocates that frozen dairy desserts help keep production costs in line. And the additives list on many flavors includes polysorbate 80, carrageenan, and artificial colors. For a brand that trades on its pastoral Pennsylvania heritage, the reality inside the carton tells a very different story. Number 12, Edie's and Dreyer's Grand Ice Cream. If you live east of the Rockies, you know it as Edie's. If you live west, you know it as Dreyer's. Same company, same products, different name. Founded in 1928 in Oakland, California, this brand was acquired by Nestle in 2002 for $3.2 billion. In 2020, the ice cream business was transferred to Froneri, a joint venture between Nestlé and private equity firm PAI Partners. Edie's and Dreyer's were among the first major brands to lead the shrinkflation charge in the ice cream aisle. They were one of the first to reduce the half-gallon to 1.75 quarts, and then again to 1.5 quarts. That is a full 25% less ice cream than what your parents bought, often at a higher price. Many of their flavors contain polysorbate 80, carrageenan, and high fructose corn syrup. Their slow-churned line, marketed as a lighter alternative, is technically a frozen dairy dessert, not ice cream. The lighter calorie count comes not from better ingredients but from whipping in more air and replacing cream with cheaper fillers. When the private equity math takes over the freezer aisle, the first casualty is always what is inside the carton. Number 11, Baskin-Robbins. Ice cream. Baskin-Robbins is the world's largest ice cream specialty chain with over 8,000 locations in more than 50 countries. Most people know them for their 31 flavors. What most people do not know is what goes into achieving those bright, vibrant colors. Baskin-Robbins has used synthetic dyes, including red No. 3 and yellow 5, in multiple flavors. Red No. 3, chemically known as erythrocene, was banned by the FDA in cosmetics and external drugs in 1990 because animal studies linked it to thyroid tumors. Yet it remained legal in food for another 35 years. The FDA finally revoked its authorization in January 2025, giving manufacturers until January 2027 to reformulate. That means as of today, red No. 3 may still be in Baskin-Robbins products on shelves right now. Yellow 5, also known as tartrazine, remains fully legal in the United States but requires warning labels in the European Union because of links to hyperactivity in children. Baskin-Robbins reformulated its European products years ago. But in America, the same company serves different formulations with synthetic dyes that trigger mandatory warnings across the Atlantic. Same brand, different rules, different ingredients. The only difference is which country you happen to be standing in. Now we are about to get into the truly troubling territory. If you thought artificial dyes were bad, wait until you hear about what some of these companies have been convicted of. But first, if this video is already opening your eyes, do us a favor and share it with someone you care about. They deserve to know what is really in their freezer. Number 10. Friendly's ice cream. Friendly's has been an East Coast institution since 1935, known for sundaes, fribbles, and family memories. But the company has gone through financial turmoil that directly affects what ends up in your freezer. Friendly's filed for bankruptcy not once, but twice, in 2011 and again in 2020. The restaurant chain was sold off separately from the ice cream manufacturing business. Today, Friendly's branded ice cream is manufactured under license, and some products were produced by Totally Cool Incorporated of Owings Mills, Maryland. That name should send a chill down your spine. In June 2024, the FDA found Listeria monocytogenes at Totally Cool's production facility during an unannounced inspection. The agency ordered a recall of every product made there. More than 60 products across 13 brand names were pulled from shelves nationwide, including Friendly's ice cream cakes. The FDA later revealed that Totally Cool had a resident strain of Listeria, the same genetic fingerprint found in samples from inspections in 2017, 2019, and 2024, and matched to a listeriosis patient from 2015. The company's food facility registration was suspended in July 2024. By August, they filed for bankruptcy. By March 2025, they sold all assets for $650,000 and shut down permanently. Friendly's on the label, a contaminated factory behind the curtain, and a supply chain so fragmented that when disaster struck, consumers had no way to trace the problem back to where it started. That is the hidden cost of outsourcing your manufacturing to the lowest bidder. Number 9. Agen-Dazs. Agen-Dazs has always positioned itself as the premium choice, the sophisticated pint with the European-sounding name that was actually invented in the Bronx. The brand was founded by Reuben Mattis in 1960 and is now operated by Dreyer's Grand Ice Cream, a subsidiary of Fronery. In 2022, Agen-Dazs issued a global recall after the chemical 2-chloroethanol, a byproduct of the pesticide ethylene oxide, was detected in their vanilla ice cream in mini tubs. Ethylene oxide is a known carcinogen that has been banned as a food additive in the European Union. The chemical is sometimes used to sterilize dried herbs and vegetables, and it had contaminated the vanilla extract supplier that Agen-Dazs used for its European manufacturing. The recall spanned Ireland, France, Belgium, Indonesia, the Philippines, New Zealand, and numerous other countries. Products in the United States were not affected only because they happened to use a different supplier. The recall expanded multiple times as additional flavors, including Belgian chocolate, cookies, and cream, and pralines and cream were added to the list. The European Food Safety Authority noted that while a single consumption might not pose an acute health risk, continued long-term exposure to contaminated food could be dangerous. Then, in November 2025, Dreyers issued another recall, this time for Haagen-Dazs dark chocolate mini bars distributed across 31 states through Kroger and Giant Eagle stores. The issue was undeclared wheat, a potentially life-threatening allergen for people with celiac disease or wheat sensitivities. The FDA classified it as a Class 2 recall. Premium pricing does not guarantee premium safety controls. The global supply chain that sources vanilla from one continent and packages it on another creates exactly the kind of complexity where contamination can slip through. Number 8. The frozen dairy dessert. Deception. This is not about one brand. This is about an industry-wide sleight of hand that has been happening in your freezer for over a decade. The Food and Drug Administration requires ice cream to contain at least 10% milk fat and to weigh a minimum of 4.5 pounds per gallon. Products that fail to meet these standards cannot legally be called ice cream. They must be labeled frozen dairy dessert, and an alarming number of products from major brands now carry that designation. Breyers, once the gold standard of natural ice cream, quietly converted roughly 40% of its product line to frozen dairy dessert after Unilever took ownership. Turkey Hill's stuffed varieties are frozen dairy dessert. Friendly's products carry the designation. Many store brand products that look identical to ice cream on the shelf are legally something else entirely. The difference matters. Frozen dairy desserts typically replace cream with corn syrup, swap sugar for cheaper sweeteners, add gums and emulsifiers to simulate creaminess, and pump in significantly more AIR, A CBS Pittsburgh investigation found that college students in blind taste tests overwhelmingly preferred real ice cream over frozen dairy dessert and said they would pay more for the real thing. One student's reaction summed it up perfectly. They said, "It is not real ice cream, and yet you are still charging me more than $6 for fake ice cream?" The result is a product that costs less to produce, weighs less per container, has a longer ingredient list, and cannot legally call itself what it appears to be. The packaging looks the same. The freezer case looks the same, but the words frozen dairy dessert, usually printed in small type where ice cream used to be, tell you everything you need to know. Number 7. Breyers. Natural vanilla. Breyers deserves its own entry because no brand in American ice cream history has fallen further from its original promise. Founded in 1866 in Philadelphia, Breyers built its entire identity on natural ingredients. Their original vanilla was milk, cream, sugar, and vanilla. 4 ingredients. Period. For over a century, that was the Breyers promise. Your grandmother probably bought it. Your mother probably bought it. That trust was earned 1 carton at a time. Then Unilever bought the brand. In 1993, Unilever merged Breyers with Good Humor Breyers to create the Good Humor Breyers division. By 1995, they closed the last Breyers plant in Philadelphia. Manufacturing moved, decisions moved, and eventually the ingredients moved too. The container shrank from a half-gallon to 1.75 quarts to 1.5 quarts, a full 25% reduction while prices climbed. Dozens of flavors were reformulated into frozen dairy desserts. In 2013, Unilever introduced the frozen dairy dessert category to the Breyers lineup, replacing cream with corn syrup, adding gums and emulsifiers, and pumping in more air. Consumer outrage was immediate. Loyal customers took to the internet describing the texture as watery and comparing it to frozen Cool Whip. One ice cream blogger called frozen dairy dessert the scourge of the ice cream aisle. But Unilever pressed forward, eventually converting roughly 40% of the Breyers lineup away from actual ice cream. And the natural vanilla that was supposed to be the last holdout of the original promise? In 2024, an $8.85 million class action settlement was approved in McKinley versus Konopko, after consumers alleged that Breyers natural vanilla contained flavoring from non-vanilla plant sources, despite labeling that implied the flavor came exclusively from real vanilla beans. The court granted final approval on November 21, 2024. The settlement covers purchases made between April 2016 and August 2024. Breyers was required to reformulate the product to remove non-vanilla flavors. A brand built on 4 simple ingredients and a handshake with the American consumer got caught using undisclosed flavoring agents in the one product that was supposed to represent everything they stood for. The $8.85 million settlement is the price of a broken promise. And the $498 million in annual sales proves that most consumers still have not looked closely enough to notice. Number 6. Ben & Jerry's. This one may surprise you. Ben & Jerry's has built one of the most powerful brand identities in food history around social justice, environmental activism, and progressive values. Their pints cost $6 to $7, and the marketing suggests you are buying something more ethical than ordinary ice cream. But let us look at the record. In 2017, the Organic Consumers Association commissioned testing that found glyphosate in 10 of 11 Ben & Jerry's samples. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup herbicide. The highest concentration found in chocolate fudge brownie was 1.74 parts per billion. While this is far below federal limits, Ben & Jerry's had marketed itself as an environmental leader. A federal judge declined to dismiss the lawsuit, ruling that the allegations were sufficient to support a claim that consumers would be misled by the company's marketing. Then in 2023, a class action was filed alleging that Ben & Jerry's products are not ethically sourced as advertised. The lawsuit cited reporting from the New York Times that allegedly linked migrant child labor to Ben & Jerry's supply chain dairy processing facilities. A separate lawsuit challenged the company's claims about its caring dairy program, alleging fewer than a quarter of dairy cooperative members actually met the advertised standards. The corporate war between Unilever and Ben & Jerry's has consumed the brand. In November 2024, Ben & Jerry's sued Unilever for censoring its political statements. The chief executive officer was allegedly removed for supporting the brand's social mission. Co-founder Jerry Greenfield resigned in September 2025, calling it a painful decision after nearly 50 years with the company. The entire ice cream division was spun off into the Magnum Ice Cream Company, which generated $951 million in U.S. sales in 2023. Ben Cohen has publicly attempted to buy the company back, but the new entity has declared Ben & Jerry's is not for sale. While the founders fight for the soul of the brand, consumers are left paying premium prices for a product whose supply chain and corporate governance are in turmoil. Number 5. The shrinkflation machine. For decades, the standard American ice cream container was a full half-gallon, 64 ounces. That was your ice cream. Then the industry decided to make it smaller, and they did it in stages so you would barely notice. First came 1.75 quarts, 56 ounces, an 8-ounce reduction disguised in nearly identical packaging. Same shelf space, same price, less product. Then came 1.5 quarts, 48 ounces. Now you are getting 25% less than the original, and the price per ounce has skyrocketed. Then Turkey Hill pushed it to 46 ounces, 1.44 quarts, labeling the container with an odd measurement rather than the number of ounces. Breyers, Edie's, Dreyers, Turkey Hill, and nearly every major brand participated. Blue Bell remains one of the only national brands still selling a true half-gallon. Meanwhile, Agen-Dazs reduced their standard pint to 14 ounces, making it no longer a pint at all. A pint is 16 ounces. They kept the word pint in the cultural conversation while selling you 2 ounces less. The ice cream industry did not raise your prices. They did something sneakier. They shrank your ice cream and kept the price the same or raised it. The math does not lie. If you were paying $4 for 64 ounces in 2005 and now you pay $6 for 48 ounces, that is a 100% increase in price per ounce. And they never had to put the word increase anywhere on the package. Consumer advocate Edgar Dworsky, former Massachusetts Assistant Attorney General, has tracked shrinkflation for decades. He called it nothing but a sneaky price increase. And the ice cream industry is one of its worst offenders. Number 4. Blue Bell Creameries. Blue Bell is beloved in the American South with a loyalty that borders on devotion. They are one of the last brands still selling a true half-gallon. The ice cream tastes like a throwback to a simpler time. But behind that nostalgia is one of the most devastating food safety disasters in American history. In 2015, 3 people died and 10 were hospitalized across 4 states after eating Blue Bell ice cream contaminated with Listeria monocytogenes. The CDC investigation revealed that contamination at Blue Bell's facilities dated back not to 2015 but to 2010, meaning the same deadly bacteria had been present in their plants for at least 5 years before anyone took action. Blue Bell recalled all of its products nationwide, 8 million gallons of ice cream. They shut down all manufacturing facilities, more than 1,400 employees. Over a third of the entire workforce were laid off. The company pleaded guilty to 2 federal misdemeanor counts of distributing adulterated food and was ordered to pay $19.35 million in criminal fines, forfeitures, and civil penalties, the second largest amount ever paid in a food safety case at that time. Former CEO Paul Cruz was charged with 7 felony counts for allegedly concealing what the company knew about the contamination. Prosecutors allege that Cruz knew of contamination at Blue Bell plants since at least 2010 and refused to issue formal recalls or even a press release disclosing the Lististeria. He directed delivery drivers to quietly remove contaminated products from store shelves rather than alerting the public. After a 2022 trial ended in mistrial, Cruz pleaded guilty in 2023 to one misdemeanor count and paid a $100,000 fine. He avoided prison. As of February 2026, a separate $60 million shareholder lawsuit settlement had been reached, and a landmark trial in Delaware was examining whether Blue Bell's directors breached their fiduciary duties by failing to implement an oversight system for food safety. Cruz testified in that trial that food safety was always foremost in the company's priorities. The judge expressed skepticism. Blue Bell fans will tell you the ice cream tastes great, and it does. But taste was never the problem. Number 3. Titanium dioxide in your ice cream. There is a whitening agent used in ice cream, particularly in vanilla, coconut, and white chocolate flavors, that is also used in paint, sunscreen, and porcelain enamel. It is called titanium dioxide, designated as E171 in the European Union. In 2021, the European Food Safety Authority concluded that titanium dioxide can no longer be considered safe as a food additive. Their expert panel could not rule out concerns about genotoxicity, meaning the potential to damage DNA in human cells, which can lead to cancer. France had already banned it in 2020. The full European Union ban took effect in August 2022. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies titanium dioxide as a Group 2B possible carcinogen. Animal studies published in scientific reports showed that a 100-day exposure promoted colon microinflammation and initiated preneoplastic lesions. Research published in the journal Toxicology found that exposure to E171 caused DNA damage in human colon cancer cells that could not be reversed even 48 hours after the additive was removed. In America, the FDA still classifies titanium dioxide as generally recognized as safe, with no restrictions beyond not exceeding 1% of the finished food weight. Brands like Blue Bell and some great value products have used titanium dioxide. It appears in ice cream, candy, frosting, and countless other processed foods. A 2024 Wall Street Journal investigation highlighted the ubiquity of titanium dioxide in American foods, asking why a sunscreen ingredient was in frozen pizza. The same question applies to your ice cream. For older adults, this is particularly concerning. Research on the accumulation of nanoparticles in the body suggests that long-term, low-level exposure may carry greater risks than short-term consumption. The European Union determined that because genotoxicity could not be ruled out, no safe daily intake level could be established. France banned it first in 2020. The rest of the European Union followed. The United Kingdom has not followed the ban, but the scientific concern remains. The same additive that Europe determined cannot be proven safe is sitting in your freezer right now, making your vanilla look a little whiter than nature intended. Number 2. Red. Number 3. And the synthetic dye crisis. In January 2025, the Food and Drug Administration finally revoked authorization for Red Number 3, the synthetic petroleum-based dye also known as erythrocene, in all food products. The agency had banned it in cosmetics and external drugs back in 1990. That means for 35 years, a dye that was considered too dangerous to put on your lips was perfectly legal to put in your ice cream. Red Number 3 was found in candy, frozen desserts, frostings, and ice cream products from numerous brands, including Baskin-Robbins and various store-brand products. The Food and Drug Administration acted under the Delaney Clause, which requires the agency to ban any food additive found to induce cancer in humans or animals. The evidence of thyroid tumors in laboratory rats was sufficient. As the Center for Science and the Public Interest noted, more than 9,200 food items in America contained the dye at the time of the ban, including hundreds of products made by major food companies. But the story does not end there. In April 2025, the Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., announced that the government plans to remove all remaining petroleum-based synthetic food dyes from the food supply by the end of 2026. That includes Red 40, Yellow 5, Yellow 6, Blue 1, Blue 2, and Green 3, FDA Commissioner. Marty Macri stated that these chemicals have no nutritional benefit and called removing them common sense, given rising rates of childhood diabetes, obesity, depression, and ADHD. The FDA launched a public tracker to monitor food industry pledges to remove these dyes, signaling that the era of petroleum-based food coloring in America is finally coming to a close. The European Union has required warning labels on products containing these dyes for years. Many American ice cream brands reformulated their European products to remove synthetic dyes while continuing to sell the original formulations domestically. The question every ice cream eater should be asking is simple. If Europe will not allow these chemicals in their food without a warning label, why were American companies still putting them in ours? Number 1. The co-manufacturing crisis and the invisible supply chain. The biggest secret in the ice cream industry is that many of the brands you think are competitors are actually made in the same factories by the same contract manufacturers. And when one of those factories fails, the contamination spreads across every brand name on the label. In June 2024, the FDA found Listeria monocytogenes at Totally Cool Incorporated in Owings Mills, Maryland. The recall that followed removed more than 60 products from shelves under 13 brand names nationwide, including Hershey's ice cream sandwiches and cones, Friendly's ice cream cakes, Jenny's frozen dessert sandwiches, Chipwich, Dolcezza, and Cumberland Farms. The recall was massive because the contamination was at the source, the shared manufacturing facility that none of these brands prominently disclosed to consumers. The FDA investigation revealed something even more disturbing. Using whole genome sequencing, the agency determined that Totally Cool had a resident strain of Listeria that had been living in the facility since at least 2015. It matched samples from 8 separate inspections spanning 7 years. Inspectors found plumbing that constituted a source of contamination, inadequate environmental monitoring, and conditions that facilitate bacterial growth. Despite all of this, the company continued to manufacture ice cream for major brands for nearly a decade. Totally Cool filed for bankruptcy in August 2024. 68 of 71 employees lost their jobs. The FDA suspended their food facility registration and prohibited the company and its chief executive officer from directly or indirectly receiving, preparing, processing, or distributing any article of food. The company sold all assets for $650,000 and ceased to exist by March 2025. But the fundamental problem remains. When you buy a pint of premium ice cream with a beloved brand name on the label, you have no way of knowing whether it was manufactured in a state-of-the-art facility or in a plant with a decade-old resident strain of deadly bacteria. The brand names are visible. The factories are invisible. And this is not just about one failed company in Maryland. The entire structure of the American ice cream industry relies on contract manufacturing. Brand names are marketing assets, factories are interchangeable, and consumers are kept in the dark about where their food actually comes from. Until consumers demand transparency about where their ice cream is actually made, until brands are required to print the manufacturing facility on every label, and until the FDA inspects co-manufacturing plants more frequently than once every few years, the next Totally Cool is not a question of if, it is a question of when. And the victims, as they always are with Listeria, will disproportionately be the elderly, the immunocompromised, pregnant women, and young children. The people who can least afford to take the risk are the people who bear the most danger. 5 rules to spot real ice cream. Rule 1. Look for the words ice cream, not frozen dairy dessert. This is the single most important thing you can do. Flip the container over and look at the product designation. If it says frozen dairy dessert, it did not meet the FDA's minimum standards for ice cream. It likely contains less cream, more corn syrup, more air, and more chemical additives than actual ice cream. Many brands mix ice cream and frozen dairy dessert products on the same shelf in nearly identical packaging. The only way to know is to read the label. Rule 2. Count the ingredients. Real ice cream needs 5 or fewer. Traditional ice cream is cream, milk, sugar, eggs, and flavoring. That is it. If the ingredient list extends past one line, or if you see corn syrup, polysorbate 80, mono and diglycerides, carrageenan, cellulose gum, or any ingredient you cannot pronounce, you are not buying ice cream. You are buying a food science experiment shaped like ice cream. The shorter the ingredient list, the closer you are to the real thing. Rule 3. Check the weight per container, not just the price. Shrinkflation has made price comparison nearly useless unless you look at the unit price. A 1.5 quart container is 25% less than the half-gallon your parents bought. A 14-ounce container is not a pint. Always check the price per ounce listed on the shelf tag. That is the only number that tells you the truth about what you are actually paying. Rule 4. Avoid synthetic dyes and titanium dioxide. If the ingredient list includes red number 3, red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, blue 2, or titanium dioxide, you are consuming petroleum-based chemicals or a whitening agent that the European Union has banned from food. These additives serve no nutritional purpose. They exist solely to make the product look more appealing. Natural alternatives exist and are already used by the same companies in their European products. Rule 5. Be skeptical of beloved brand names on contract manufactured products. The brand on the label is not always the company that made the product. Ice cream cakes, sandwiches, cones, and novelties are frequently produced by contract manufacturers, whose names you will never see on the packaging. If a product does not clearly state where it was manufactured, you have no way to verify its safety. Brands that own their own manufacturing and can tell you exactly where the product was made deserve more trust than brands that outsource to the lowest bidder. 5 ice cream brands that still do it right. Number 1, Tillamook. Tillamook is a farmer-owned cooperative based in Oregon that has been making ice cream since 1947. Their ingredient lists are remarkably short. Their vanilla contains cream, skim milk, sugar, egg yolks, and vanilla extract. No corn syrup, no gums, no carrageenan, no artificial flavors. They still sell a true 1.5 quart container clearly labeled as ice cream, not frozen dairy dessert. And because Tillamook is a cooperative owned by the dairy farmers who supply the milk, the incentive structure rewards quality over cost cutting. Around $4 to $6 for a genuinely clean product. Number 2. 3 Twins Organic Ice Cream. 3 Twins is USDA certified organic, meaning no synthetic pesticides, no artificial hormones, and no genetically modified ingredients in the supply chain. Their ingredients are minimal and recognizable. Organic cream, organic milk, organic sugar, organic egg yolks, organic vanilla extract. The organic certification also means no titanium dioxide, no synthetic dyes, and no glyphosate-treated feed for the dairy cows. This is ice cream the way it was made before the industry decided to re-engineer it. Number 3, Breyers. Breyers is a family-owned company based in Cincinnati that has been making ice cream since 1870 using the French pot process, one of the oldest and most labor-intensive methods in the industry. Each batch produces only 2.5 gallons at a time. This is a company that chose craft over scale, and the product shows it. Their ingredient lists are short and clean. They use no artificial preservatives, no artificial flavors, and no corn syrup. The chocolate chips in their signature flavors are poured as liquid chocolate directly into the spinning French pot, creating the large, irregular chunks their fans know. Number 4, Jeni's Splendid Ice Creams. Jeni's has had its challenges, including the Totally Cool contract manufacturing recall in 2024. But their core pint products are made in their own Ohio facility, and the company's ingredient philosophy is genuinely distinctive. They use whole ingredients, grass-fed milk, and build flavors from scratch. Their ingredient lists are short. They do not use synthetic dyes, artificial flavors, or corn syrup. After the 2015 Lististeria incidents at their own plant, Jeni's invested over $2.5 million in safety upgrades. They test every single batch before it ships, exceeding FDA requirements. The company learned from its failures publicly, which is more than most brands on this list can say. Number 5, ice cream you make at home. The most trustworthy ice cream comes from your own kitchen. A basic home ice cream maker costs $30 to $50. The recipe is simple: 2 cups of heavy cream, 1 cup of whole milk, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, a pinch of salt, and vanilla extract. That is real ice cream, 5 ingredients, no gums, no dyes, no frozen dairy dessert, no mystery co-manufacturers, no shrinkflation. You control the cream, you control the sugar, you control what goes in and what stays out. For seniors especially, this matters. You know exactly what you are eating. You know there is no Lististeria, no titanium dioxide, no red number 3, and no corn syrup. A batch of homemade ice cream costs about $3 to $4 and makes a full quart. That is better ingredients for less money than almost anything in the freezer aisle. The ice cream industry spent decades building trust on simplicity: cream, milk, sugar, and eggs. 4 ingredients that anyone could understand. Then they systematically replaced those ingredients with cheaper alternatives, shrank the containers, pumped in air, added chemicals that are banned in other countries, and called it progress. 3 people died from Bell's Listeria. A factory with a decade-old resident strain of deadly bacteria supplied ice cream to 13 brands before anyone stopped it. A dye that was banned in lipstick in 1990 stayed legal in your ice cream until 2025, and the most popular brand in America got caught faking vanilla in the one product that was supposed to be beyond reproach. You deserve better. Your family deserves better. Your grandchildren deserve better. The freezer aisle should not require a chemistry degree and a detective's badge to navigate. For those of us over 60, the stakes are even higher. Listeria is disproportionately lethal for older adults and anyone with a compromised immune system. Additives like carrageenan can cause chronic low-level inflammation over decades. Titanium dioxide. Nanoparticles may accumulate in the body in ways science is only beginning to understand. Synthetic dyes that were banned in European food years ago were still being served to American families until this year. So flip the container over, read the label, count the ingredients, look for the words ice cream, not frozen dairy dessert. When you find a brand that still does it the old way with real cream and honest ingredients, hold on to it. Tell your friends about it. Support it with your dollars in today's industry that is getting harder to find every year. The companies that still do it right need your business more than the billion-dollar conglomerates that stopped caring about what is inside the carton a long time ago.